talk, real talk, real talk, real talk, real talk.
Welcome to Real Talk for Real Teens, the show where we uniquely combine the information teens need with the entertainment teens want.
Hello, everyone. Hello. This is Real Talk for Real Teens, and I am Kim Creighton. And today we are talking to Stephanie Renee. She's someone I've known for a few years now, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Renee. I'm an improviser, a sketch comedian, a writer, and I also paint. So I consider myself an overall artist of sorts.
Oh. Okay. So which 21st century skill were we talking about today?
Creativity.
Okay. And can you give us your definition of creativity?
I think creativity is essentially finding the truth of the moment and whatever it is, and then creating something new from that. So for me, as an improviser, a lot of times it's me trying to figure out what the truth is of the scene and creating something new from that. That's my definition of it.
Okay, and my next question for you then is, why do you think creativity is important? Why do you want to talk about the subject?
I think it's important because, I wasn't always following this path, and before I did that, I really didn't have a lot of focus or a lot of, I'm not sure exactly what the word is, but I had a hard time really being a productive citizen of society. But as soon as I kind of found my outlet and I found what that was, it was a lot easier for me to kind of express myself, and then from that also be able to set goals for myself and work towards them.
So for you, creativity gave you a way to focus your life, focus your intention, focus what direction you're going to go in, and how you were going to live. And before that, you and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you were more unfocused. You were not intentional. You were just kind of going along to go along, but with no plan.
Yeah, I had absolutely no plan. And the second I've kind of found my passion, I think, which was comedy, was the second I found that, everything else kind of slowly started to fall in line. The things that I struggled with before, I didn't have to struggle so much with because I had a reason to work through them, because I had something I was passionate about.
Oh, okay. Before we get into, I want you to explain to people what is, and you say you're improv. So what is that? What is improvisation?
Improvisation? Improvisation is an art form that was created for the theater world that essentially has it where somebody will create something off the top of their head in a scene, and then everyone else in that scene will react to it as if that whatever that first person said was true. And then you just create a scene. So if someone's like, I need to get my hair cut, well, all of a sudden jump to, you're probably going to be in a barbershop, and you're going to play the scene out as if it's a completely real scene, and usually comedy ensues from that. Just from that's probably the best way I could describe improvisation.
And that's a good that's a good example. Good explanation, because what I want to do is throw in there, young people, when you're looking at television, Second City, not Second City because that's where we were trained at. Saturday Night Live is a good example of sketch comedy or improvisation. Or what was that? Whose Line Is It Anyway? That was improvisation. That was a great example of improvisation, as opposed to watching Scandal or The Office, which are scripted shows. Everything is scripted out. They play it. They say the stuff over and over again. But you ever watched Whose Line Is It Anyway? You're given a topic, and off the cuff, you have to do it. And one of the best, the people that you know who's great at it in all forms for me is Wayne Brady. He can sing, all of that stuff is just off the cuff, and that's what improv is. And it's a style, it's a way of acting, it's a method of acting. So I wanted her to explain that, to give you guys some sense of how she uses creativity. Because but I also want to talk about the fact that you tie passion so closely in with creativity, and you didn't even recognize your ability to be creative until you were able to discover what you were passionate about. Is that correct?
It was weird because someone recommended that I take an improv class a couple years ago, and I'd always kind of made funny voices or had different characters just for fun when I was just goofing around. And when I took the class, I was like, wow, this is it. And it unleashed a whole bunch of other creative sides for myself that I had maybe had when I was little but kind of lost. I mean, now I paint and I write poetry sometimes because I realized when I found that outlet that it's about getting your perspective out there in a truthful way so that you can better understand the world, for me at least. And I love that definition because it really speaks to improv, it speaks to painting, it speaks to poetry, getting, like you just said, getting your perspective out there in a truthful way. And it doesn't obviously have to be seen by anybody, but it's just for you to get it out. And I think a lot of times, especially when we're young, we want to look cool or whatever. We're kind of embarrassed of these things that kind of live inside ourselves that are there. But once you start to kind of unleash that, it really opens up a whole other world for you. At least it did for me.
Yeah, and being young, the last thing that most young people want to do, well, the last thing that most people want to do anyway, but specifically at the age range, teen and young adult, is to stand out. So you're saying it's like you kind of bury those things about you that make you different because you don't want to be different. You want to be figure out where you fit in these little boxes, these little cliques, and you want to fit in there, and then you don't want to make waves. You want to fit in there nicely, keep your head down, and get through it. And being creative oftentimes comes in the way of that. And again, it's not just the arts that we're talking about creativity, because Renee is specifically speaking of her passion. Your passion can be being an auto mechanic, building cars, creating people who, tear down computers and build computers. So it doesn't have to be in the arts, but I love how you tie creativity into passion. And that element is what freed you, guided you. It became your, North Star, that thing that you could follow no matter what, and it's opened up a lot of different things. Because the last time we spoke, actually, I did not know you were painting. So I'm like, okay, now she's painting.
Yeah, and I kind of let whatever wants to kind of come out of me creatively come out however it wants to come out. Like, I am also doing a one-woman show right now, or trying to finish writing a one-woman show, and I'm trying to, it's 28 lessons learned the hard way, because I've learned a lot of lessons the hard way in life, like a lot of people. But I'm trying to do each different lesson like a different way to kind of express myself. So it's not just storytelling, and it's not just acting, and it's not just a basic whatever. It's maybe a little bit of slam poetry and a song, just whatever each lesson is, trying to find the best way to kind of represent it creatively.
And that leads me to two things that you just said that I want to talk about. I want to talk about, as you said, you feel, I guess what I want to ask you is, number one, how comfortable was it at first for you to get to that space? Because you mentioned how that's how you express yourself now. You try to, what am I trying to say? It's like, did you once you figured out you were creative, how easy was it for you, or what was the goal to get you to this place where you are now comfortable enough to share that part of yourself? And two, is this one woman show, because that's your goal to have each one of the 28 lessons resemble or speak a different part of your creativity, is that really challenging you to go beyond what you thought you could do creatively? And I know those are two very complicated questions, but
yeah. I'll answer the last one first. I have had to, I'm not a singer. My voice doesn't really translate well to song, but so I've had to kind of accept that, but also know that that I have to kind of tackle the fear of it a little bit, and and the things that I'm definitely kind of stretching myself a little bit. I mean, it's to be the only person on stage alone for an hour is scary enough, but to do these new things I've never done or never really been good at is also kind of scary. But I feel like it's the only, tackling fear is the only way to kind of really grow and achieve the things I want to as an artist, is to keep kind of challenging myself to go after those things that I'm scared of. So I think that kind of answers the question. And then the third question I've already kind of forgotten.
Is how, from when you took that first improv class to this point where you're really pushing yourself to creatively and to step outside of what's your comfort level. Tell us about that journey. Did you take that first class and it was automatically like, oh, I'm going to be totally transparent and naked? Or was it steps of kind of thing?
It's been a lot of little steps. It's been kind of a growing process. After I took the first improv class, I took an acting class, and that shook me. It scared me. Growing up, I always wanted to be an improviser or an actor. It's what I put is in sixth grade we had to put what we wanted to be when we grew up and write a little synopsis about it, and that's what I put. And then I always put it in the back of my mind thinking it's too crazy or it's not rational or realistic. So I definitely, after I took that first improv class and then the acting class, I had a realization that I had told myself all these years that I wasn't capable of doing something, that I told myself that something wasn't possible when in fact it was possible. And that changed a lot for me. That kind of had a big impact on kind of the way I looked at things going forward. Whenever I kind of faced something that I was like, this might be impossible or this isn't realistic to want to do, I realized that I'm capable of doing whatever it is that I want. And that definitely was something that was a slow process of continually understanding about myself, and through tackling these things that I didn't think that I could do, I slowly started wanting to tackle things that I was afraid of, because I realized I was afraid of doing what it was that I wanted to do for many, many years. And as soon as I took that first step, I was like, I want to do more. I want to achieve more.
Like you got a little bit of taste of it, and you're like, okay. And I totally, we're going to take our first break, and then I'll speak to that when we come right back. So hold on just a second.
Follow us on Facebook at Real Talk for Real Teens and on Twitter at RTFRT Radio.
I want to speak to that fear or you starting at one space and then you just move, you practice it. Because a lot of people ask me all the time, I left my job, I'm doing this thing on my own because I'm passionate. I love what I'm doing. I love working with young people, and I love this media thing. I'm like, there's so much you can do. 10 years ago, I couldn't be doing this. I wouldn't have the resources. I wouldn't have the connections. I wouldn't have anything. And now I can step out and get on Twitter and send anybody a tweet asking, hey, I'm doing this show. I like what you're doing. Would you be interested in being an artist? I coming on the show as a guest. And so did that happen the first time? No. But what it's taught me, so every time you see this fear that's like staring you in the face, and you find a way to go through it, not avoid it, and it's not going to happen overnight. But you find a way to kind of walk through it slowly. You might be, dodging and ducking, but you're going to go through the fear to get to the other side. It emboldens you to challenge yourself even farther. It emboldens you to not just what you were saying, to start looking at examining some of the things that we told ourselves that we couldn't do, or that were stupid or not realistic, or I don't have talent for, and we start challenging ourselves. Just like we were just saying about the singing. Your intention in this show is not to be, your show is not to prove that you are Mariah Carey or Whitney Houston. Your intention in the show is to express yourself creatively in as many ways as you can with these 28 different these things that you've learned. So because your intention is not to be this great singer, it'll be wonderful. Now I can see if your intention was to, oh my God, I got to get, my intention is to sing this well, to get, to make sure I hit all the notes. That would be a whole other thing. But the fact that you're getting up there and in the context that you're doing it, though scary as hell, is amazing. And I want to say I'm very proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I am. Because, again, I remember us often in this class, and just listening to you talk now, you've come a long way. And I love how you said it didn't happen overnight. It took steps,
And I still have a long way to go. Like, there's...
Oh, we all do.
Yeah. But it's one of those things that you can't start backing down. Like, there's a couple things since I moved to Chicago to do this that haven't quite gone my way, and I was like, should I be doing this? Is this what I want to be doing? And I realized that everyone has those moments of doubt. Everyone questions if they can do it. And if I could find something else that would make me feel the way sketch comedy and writing and improv does, then I would do it. But this is it, This is the thing.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Isn't that funny?
Like,
it's like, and I love how it is. And I love how you tied it to your passion. I love that you explained it so well without that passion, you had no direction. Without knowing those things. And so people want to know why we do the things we do, because the thought of doing it, I told my mom the other day, I was like, and I was having one of those moments. And so I was like, but Mom, the thought of doing everything else would be death to me. It would be like I was, literally a death. And that's what people don't get. They think it's not like when I was teaching. It didn't matter. I could go to another school. It was all teaching. I wasn't passionate about teaching. That's not what I was passionate about. What I was passionate about and what I recognized was I like being around kids. I like having those conversations when I was in the classroom. Not about the subject matter. We're talking about life. And those are the things that I love to do, that energize me. And so again, I appreciate your honesty and your transparency in saying, and what you're doing by putting yourself on stage, it takes it to another level, because it's not like you're doing this in the comfort of your own home and no one has to see it. You're writing, you're painting, and you put it in the closet. No, you're writing, you're painting, you're singing, and you're putting it on stage.
Yeah. It's, it's a scary thing, but if you can't start doing the things that scare you the most but also excite you the most, you slowly start to like drift away from yourself. And one of my biggest fears is, you know, being in a job that I don't want and having a life that I don't want and being too afraid to change it. And I think that that's kind of, and I think that that's what ends up happening a lot of times to people when they've hit a couple of setbacks or whatever. They're like, nope, this is too much, and I'm not going to keep fighting anymore. And I don't want to be one of those people. I want to keep fighting for what it is that I want out of life. And luckily, I've found ways creatively to do that and feel really connected to the work. And that's the most exciting part.
Wow, that's great. So tell us about okay, so you're doing this project. Tell us about your sketch comedy group.
My sketch comedy group, there's 4 girls, and we all kind of have different personalities, different perspectives a little bit, and we wrote a show called That Girl that went up at Second City, which is where me and Kim took classes, and I thought it was a really successful show. It was an hour long, and it was about how nobody wants to be that girl, but everybody is from time to time. And so we played up a lot of those characters that like nobody wants to be. So kind of the loud, obnoxious girl at the party that nobody wants to be. Well, sometimes you're going to end up being that girl.
Sometimes you wake up the next morning like, damn, I was that girl.
Yeah, that's exactly. There's quite a few, or like you'll be in a relationship and you'll be like, I'm not that crazy girl.
Oh.
And then something happens and you're like, I'm that girl. So that's what we tried to focus on, was like the reality of the fact that like nobody wants to be it, but everybody is.
Oh my God, I'm sure that was hysterical, because I could just imagine you always point your finger at somebody like, look at her over there, and then when you're that girl, you're just quiet as a mouse. You just like, don't tell nobody.
Yeah, but the funny thing is at the end we kind of all gave we're like, we can't judge these people because we are these people, and we all gave examples from our lives of like when we were that girl and why that was embarrassing, but how it's okay and you shouldn't judge other people because you yourself aren't, free of judgment.
At some point you have been that girl or you will be that girl. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And we had some guys.
Go ahead.
We had some guys in the show too, and we did things that guy would do, and so we tried to represent like a whole bunch of different voices. It was a good show.
Oh, good.
Good. Yeah.
And so, how did you when you were writing this, how long did it take you guys to get the show together and from the ideas to the actual show? How long did you guys have?
It took a while because we had to apply for the rental space at Second City, and that took a while. So we had been writing before we could even submit to see if we would get chosen to be up at Second City for a while. The entire process could have probably been done in 6 months, but it took us about a year. It was all of our first sketch shows, and we kept rewriting and rewriting and rewriting. Almost every single one of the sketches had like 7 rewrites, just to make sure it was like we weren't missing a beat. And I think the good thing about having a little bit of the extra time was, the flow of the show it wasn't perfect, but it flowed really well. There wasn't much time that went on without a laugh. It was paced really nicely, and I think we were able to look at all the potential weaknesses and fix them before the show went up. And I think that was something we got really fortunate with because we had a little bit of extra time to do it.
And the reason I ask is because, and I'm going to say this, and we're going to go to our last break before you give your 3 tips. And the reason I ask because a lot of people assume that creativity is all about I have this innate thing and I do one time and I got it. It makes sense. So I love how you just really spoke to the process of creativity. Sometimes you're going to get something it makes sense the first time. Sometimes you're going to get something and for it to make sense, you got to keep trying at it, and that doesn't mean that anything's wrong. It can be better. So Thank you for that. So let's take our last break, and when we come back, I want you to give your 3 tips.
Okay.
New or unknown music artists, we need you for the show. If you'd like your own mini concert, please send a request for information to realtalkforrealteens@gmail.com.
All right. Again, guys, my guest today is Stephanie Renee. She's an improviser, sketch comedy writer, one-woman show writer, doing a whole lot of things in the Chicago area and that great city of improv. And we've been talking about creativity and really tying that to passion. And I love, again, how she's very clear. She's been very clear to explain to you without passion, she was really running away from what she could have done creatively. She was actually living that life that we all fear of living, like waking up one day and be like, oh, my God, I can't believe I just did this. And I want you to give people your age so that people understand that you're not an older girl.
I'm 27.
Exactly, guys. She's just 27. She's been doing this for at least 3 years now?
Yeah, I've been in Chicago 3 years, so I've pretty much been doing that 3 years.
Yeah. So I
didn't know what I was doing.
Exactly. And that's
like
why
before I started, I had no idea.
And that's why I want to bring that up, because so many people think, oh, my God, I have to know this by. No, you can get it. It'll be all right. So what are your 3 tips?
My first tip is for you to get to know who you are. Get to know what you see as the truth in a variety of different ways. Get to know who you are and how you feel about yourself. I think it's really difficult to create when you're a fluid object or person. I don't think that you're able to really say anything with your point of view if you don't know what your point of view is. So I think the first tip is to get to know yourself, and I think it'll open up a whole lot of other doors. My second tip is to keep working. There's a lot of times that things will come up. You might not have the inspiration. You might not feel like you have the drive that day, but you have to keep pushing through, and what will come from you pushing through, even if it doesn't feel right away, when you can push through that, I think you are going to get to a level of work, or I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for, but if you just keep pushing through and working really hard, eventually things will kind of come together. And then my last tip would be to do things that scare you. I think that's the biggest tip as far as creativity, because I think that the sooner you start tackling things around you that scare you, the more open the world becomes, the more free you are to be able to feel the inspiration coming from other things or other people. I think when you're closed off or you're afraid or you're self-conscious, I think what happens is we shut ourselves off unknowingly. And I think being able to kind of tackle your fears, even if it's a little bit every day, I think allows you to really open yourself up creatively. So those are my 3 tips.
Well, thank you, Miss Stephanie Renee. It's been great having you on the show. I wish you wish you well, much success. Wish I was there to see the show go up. And thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to share with my audience.
Of course. It was an absolute pleasure.
All right. Have a nice day.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
The Real Talk for Real Teens community is the premier membership organization for young professionals. Real Talk for Real Teens community provides the most comprehensive resources and education designed to advance the skills, integrity, and value of its members as professionals. Become a member at www.rtfrtc.com. Thank you for listening, and join us every Sunday through Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern for more Real Talk for Real Teens.